Great.
I'm
Timed that one very well.
I am afraid. Very afraid. I'm afraid. I think it's time for me to leave.
Oh, come on, man. Halloween's in a couple of weeks. We're going to have some fun. Got to get in the spirit of it.
Yeah,
You know?
you gotta. I'll find some Halloween themed stuff next week.
See, I mean, they're having fun in the lab. Why can't we have fun in the lab?
You call that fun?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Sure. Whatever works best.
Oh, hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Scuba and The Ry, episode 129.
129. I am so fine.
Yeah, we are back. We got Scuba Steve, Ry Guy. I got a new camera that's not buffering and giving me headaches.
You actually can see him and actually see him talk.
I know. My voice and my physical thing are the same. Are on track.
So when you're moving like this, you're not moving so slow and catching up to me, kind of thing. But hey, it works.
It's all good. It's all good. All right. Yeah. So we're back for our weekly dose of games, movies, entertainment, life.
Life itself can be a pain.
It has its moments.
It has its moments. Great moments, but there's some painful ones at best.
But before we get too much further on, we're definitely going to take a minute to shout out to Sirenscape. Sirenscape.com for soundboards and background musics for your tabletop experience, because it is the spirit of spooky.
Ooh.
And the season of spooky. We're listening to a group sound set called the Mad Scientist's Lab, where someone's hard at work and we're gonna kind of just hang out here and not be in the way.
Yeah, and I'm off the clock, so I ain't gonna be working.
Yeah, most we have to worry about is whatever's going on.
I'm not taking overtime pay for that.
But go check them out, Sirenscape.com. They have a wide variety of soundboards you can use for sci-fi, high fantasy, horror, whatnot. This is the season of Strahd, so go check it out, Sirenscape.com, for more on that.
Check them out.
And if you're enjoying this and enjoying what we do, please remember to do the thing. Like, subscribe, share. Definitely share. That's the best way to help us out.
Sharing is caring, people. Oh, yeah. Sharing is caring.
Yep. So, what we got on the docket today, my man?
More Halloweening with the movies. So, it's being October, so a lot of horror movies dropped this month. So, got 2 more on the deck.
Nice. Nice.
And also a Marvel presentation, Ryan, a Scuba exclusive.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's been out for a couple of weeks, but finally we both had a chance to sit and watch it, and now we can give our opinions on it.
Yes.
And a recap. So, let's, what you been up to? Let's do
what I have been up to.
What you been up to?
What I've been up to, nothing too much, just the school thing and the work thing and trying to buy tickets for things. But one wins, the other doesn't, because
trying to buy tickets. What are you referring to, Ryan?
So, and in reference to our conversation from earlier, I'm not going to be as animated and more PC than off the air. So there's two acts that are coming next year that I'm looking forward to. One is Ed Sheeran. If you know Ed Sheeran, he's a very popular British singer, songwriter, does a lot of acoustic sets, but his music's a good variety, and he's coming and doing a North American tour.
Nice.
Closest show is going to be up in DC in June, so went ahead, got tickets. I actually got tickets, reasonable price, perfect selection. Also going to turn the weekend into like a date escape, so got a hotel room, going to spend the weekend at the National Harbor up in DC, so I'll turn that's fun. The other band, which is Blink-182. Blink-182 is one of my favorite bands of all time. Actually, in my top 5 of favorite bands of all time.
You and about 24 other millennials.
Yes. That is me, the emo kid, pop punk rock band guy, and I love them. And the fact is that why it's so big of them going on this world tour is because Tom DeLonge is back in the band. So it's a reunion kind of tour. They're going to have new music, a new album. But the thing is that the tickets. And yeah. Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of memes and stuff. Like we were just talking about one of the guys I follow on Instagram. He does all these different skits, and there was a quick little line in there about Blink-182 tickets. So
Yeah.
I haven't bothered to look. So
No,
but
I will give an explanation. So, you know, whenever you have concerts and pre-sales can be a little bit more. That's fine. Pre-sales or pre-sales. Wait for the general sale. You can go ahead and get your ticket. Well, I went and go ahead and look at the seating chart. Well, you know, there's seats available, sale and resale. Okay, I'll go up in the, because it's an arena, and I've been in arena, so you can get into it in the mid range, and it'd be you can see the stage and band and all that stuff.
oh yeah,
as long as I can hear
like those big giant jumbo screens.
Yeah, as long as I can see and hear, I'm good.
Yeah.
I always sit in the back of the amphitheater anyway, so I'm used to it. But the thing is, when I'm looking at the ticket price, it's like, that's pretty high for the nosebleed. Let me go ahead and move up a seat. How did it triple in price? Okay, let me try to move again. Okay, that is way too much out of my market.
All right, so so let's start the nosebleed altitude mask ticket seats.
Okay.
We're costing how much?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say what place, just not the put them on the hot seat, but in a arena around this area. The nosebleed, the cheapest was $184 before fees. So that means with the fees, with tickets, it's going to push it over $200 per ticket. Okay, cool. $200 is okay if you're up near the stage or somewhere closer. But I was like, nosebleed, okay. Let me just move up a row. Not like a section, not like to the 100, just a row. It bumped up to like 300 something. I was like, move it up another row. Just one more row.
So 3 rows in.
Yeah, 3 rows in. It was like $565 per ticket. All right, guys. I love me some Blink. I can listen to them all day, every day. Been one of my first 3 albums I ever bought in middle school. One was Incubus, the Incubus Make Yourself album, Korn Issues album, and Blink-182 Enema of the State. And I've been listening to them since middle school. I love them, but hey, I'm an adult. I got stuff to pay for. I got to be reasonable when I spend my money. So I'm going to play the waiting game on this. So sometimes playing the waiting game is probably the best game.
I'm hoping so, because I tell you, it's like, we were talking a little bit about this. And it's like, $600 for a ticket that far back.
Yeah.
I'm like, for me, I have to say it's like, it's got to be a really good show. And of course, I tried to make this argument to Ryan. This failed because I was thinking, some older bands. Everybody, music and a lot of other things is subjective. So people who like Blink-182, I actually am not. I'm a fan of them. I'm not a diehard fan of them. But most of the songs I know that are Blink-182 came from the American Pie. So take that with a grain of salt.
You left
but then when you look at some of the ones that are, look at their notoriety, like in Elton John or, like Paul McCartney, Queen, if Freddie Mercury was still with us. Granted, the new lineup isn't bad from what I hear. Those kinds of things, I could kind of see that. But, Rye sitting there be like, I go to concerts. I got my punch card for concerts.
Yeah.
Elton John didn't pay that much for that.
Yeah, I didn't. No, I didn't. Jimmy Buffett didn't pay that much for Jimmy Buffett.
Not for a single ticket.
Not for a single ticket. Not even for sporting events did I pay that much. And I had good seats in those sporting events. So, yeah.
Oh,
I was either behind home plate or near the court, or I can touch the football players on the field. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
Paying damn near $600 3 rows in on the nosebleed.
Even if I had money to do it, I would not do it. I have other things. But I will play the waiting game, because sometimes playing the waiting games on these things is the best game.
So you think maybe it's like, hey, we got to sell some tickets, start dropping the price?
Or they'll add more dates and might actually come in this area. So
that's fair.
The last time I saw them, the 2 times I saw them, they did come through this area. So
okay.
Playing the waiting game can be the smart game, people.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So playing the game, what's been the shenanigans with the scuba?
Oh, man. Work is getting a little goofy now that convention's done and moving on to the next major event. And I was telling this to a couple people, because it was like, all right, let's think about this. It's like, you have when you're in a position where you have multiple projects going on.
Yep.
But all of them are kind of like different points in the project life cycle. Best way I can say, it's like, okay, you're waiting on certain things from certain peoples or certain timelines you're not sure, or you haven't really finalized your end timeline, right?
Yeah.
Well, in the last 2 weeks, it's been okay. Here's like half a dozen projects I've been working on all summer, and now we've set an end date, and it happens to fall in the same week we're doing our next conference. So it's
nice.
like it's like this convergence of things where it's like pull this off, and it's like, all right, on Monday this stuff goes live, Tuesday and Wednesdays this conference, Thursday sit back, go comatose because you've just poured in all these hours to get to you at that point.
Trying to shove it in, push it in, and be like, blah.
So, but on top of that, I've been doing some other things like getting back into the video editing.
Yep.
Like I recorded my presentation during convention because I wanted to document it, and I brought my GoPro and did that. Well, I sat and edited the video for it. Probably one of the more complicated videos I've done to date because let's be honest, doing podcast editing and doing the videos for the D&D games that I've done, there hasn't been a whole lot of editing for that. Maybe a little cut here, tweak there, you know, that kind of thing. But a lot of it is pretty much what you see is what you get.
Yep.
This was, okay, the camera is a certain distance away. I got to try and do a zoom. Plus, we were giving a PowerPoint presentation. So it was like, all right, let me grab the slides. And how do I make these slides an image that is viable for video? Layer that in so that you see the presentation, you hear us talking, and, you know, it transitions from slide to slide. And then there are certain points where it's like, okay, the slide just doesn't do enough. So add in some extra elements to give it a little extra pop, you know?
There you go.
So, but it was also, again, it's also complicated in the fact that it was a short video. I mean, it was at most 30 minutes.
Okay.
So 30 minutes of footage for the most part, didn't really cut anything out. So it's this 30 minutes of us talking and adding in these other layers. And it still felt like it took just as much time to go through that in multiple passes than it did doing a podcast edit in some of these new workflows, because that'll still take me a little while.
Took a little bit, just a little bit. But
I mean, it took me a whole day. I got it rendered, uploaded, all that. It was great. And then I started working on the build video I was doing prior to going to New York for convention. And that one I think is probably going to be my largest learning curve yet, because I went into the project thinking, okay, I'm going to document building this project. I have watched other YouTubers document builds and all this, and I know they have different camera gear than what I've got. I'm working off a GoPro. So I kind of had a rough idea what I wanted to do, how I want to position the camera, you know, that whole workflow for camera directing, all of that, as well as doing the project. So, you know, I'm sure some people can empathize with this. So I did this, and it went over multiple days working through this project because I only had a couple hours here, a couple hours there, yada, yada, yada. But when it all came down, it's like, okay, there's like 3.5 hours of footage. And there's some spots I realized I didn't document that I should have documented, and parts that I documented that I'm cutting out because it doesn't fit with the progression of the project. So it's going to be a learning curve on that, because I want to get this video down to like 20 minutes, give or take, and have it paced out based on a certain YouTuber that seems more kind of in the weed. He does his videos, they're sped up and they just focus on the build.
Okay.
So my plan is to do this. It's focused on the build. There's not a whole lot of voiceover and talking. It's going to be a music track. But I think I'm going to do a second version that is a voiceover and load that up on the Patreon site. So if you want to hear my thoughts, and I'll probably do some commentary on the video editing as well as the build, because for me, this video is less about the build and more about the process of making a video that is not a D&D game or a podcast or anything I've done before. This is a new style of video for me. and one that I've had half a dozen false starts on, because I've documented bits and pieces of my projects with my phone camera, but I never took it from start to finish. So this is the first one that is start to finish, and it's like, all right, I've done a couple other things, like with some foam builds, like I did a boat video and some Lego videos, but not a wood shop video. So it's a different style of video, and it's going to be an interesting kind of deal because it was a multi-day build, and it had a lot of back and moving the camera around. Like when I did a couple of crafting ones, it's like I set the camera on one spot. I just got to remember to turn it on and turn it off, but it's not really moving. And the videos are switching, a lot shorter. Switch. Yeah, this one, it's like, okay, position the camera and angle it and see where those angles are. So it's fun. I'm on my third pass through, trimming down bits and getting it to crunch down. I went from 3.5 hours down to like just under 2 or a little over 1 hour. And I'm about halfway through on this next pass through. So, but it's just time consuming. And when they tell you you'll take twice as long editing the video as shooting the video, they're not joking. It's literally taking that much time just to go through this. Yeah,
it takes some time, but the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to have that done here in the next couple of days and get that out. And then I think some scheduling goofiness is going on. Then I could start on the next build project in the shop, and maybe even start some build projects on the table and see about, working out. Because a lot of it is like, hey, I'd like to do this. Hey, I'd like to do this. But then it's like, how do I go about doing it? And then it's like, all right, I have an idea how I'm going to go about doing it. But then it's actually doing it. Yeah. And then following through. And that's a growing experience. I mean, anybody could grab their phone and just, shoot some video on their phone. But if it's like an upload, and then it's just some people adapt to that a little bit faster. And me, I'm an older school kind of person. This is like, I want to do this, but it's getting over the imposter syndrome. It's getting over the, why the hell are you wasting your time? You're 40 some odd years old. All of these things in the headspace that are like, I shouldn't be doing this. I have a day job. I should focus. I should be doing that. I shouldn't be trying to do this kind of hobby that is brutal in its in gaining popularity, gaining a foothold, and all that. Yeah. There's plenty of room for it, but to really succeed at it, it's very cutthroat as opposed to my day job.
Yeah. But it like you said, it's you do more than just your daily routines. You have hobbies, you have things you want to dive into. So this is another one of those things. Dedication will get you there. So you got this. I think you got this.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. So
yeah, the triumphs will justify those turmoils.
Yeah, and again, it's a learning experience. Like, I don't expect to be winning any awards with this video. Like I said, it's okay. Yeah, here's the learning how to do this. Yeah. Kind of deal.
Takes a little bit of time.
Oh yeah, totally. So that's pretty much that part.
All right.
So let's go and dive into our reviews for the week.
Yeah? Yes, we do. We have a couple films.
We do have a couple of films.
Still dealing with the horror Halloween theme.
Yep. So our first film is one that I have not watched, but was recently released on Hulu.
Yes, sir.
And that is the remake or reboot of the Hellraiser franchise with this new Hellraiser film. I honestly didn't know this was coming. I think I might have heard a blip about it. Sorry, my nose is all itchy.
It's all good.
But I heard a little blip about this, but I didn't even know it was on Hulu, let alone where it was coming. Yeah. But Ry, you said you got an interesting story behind this one. This wasn't a planned review.
No, this wasn't a planned review. And me and my good friends, we had a little chill out on Saturday night, and we were trying to find a Halloween horror theme movie to watch, and me and my other friend recommended this Hellraiser because it just dropped recently on Hulu. This actually was a Fox holdover, kind of like Prey, which was a Fox holdover. So Disney decided to plop it in on Disney, not Disney Plus, but Hulu. So, like you said, it is a reboot, a re-imaging of sorts. It doesn't have connections to the original, but it does play along the same lines. So, with this film, it focuses on the characters that you're familiar with from Hellraiser. You have Pinhead, you have the Cenobites, you have this other dimension, and then you have this like device, this mysterious device that is like a puzzle piece. And basically, there's different configurations of this puzzle, and when you work this device, and you get this puzzle, the one thing that it does is that if it stabs you or pricks you and you bleed, you get pulled into this realm, and then the Cenobites and Pinhead, they go and do what they call pleasure things to them, but it's basically gore and ripping your body apart and all that fun stuff, I guess. But now, okay.
So, yeah. Just for context.
Yeah, for context.
For those of you who are unaware, and when we're talking about this being a reboot, the original Hellraiser was done in 1987.
Yes, sir.
And written, directed by Clive Barker, and he set a pretty substantial bar when it comes to this movie, this franchise.
Yes.
So
this type of horror movie, it is not the slasher or the psychological. This is the gore fest. In comparison to the original, it's not as gory, but it still has your mind cringy scenes. But this one focuses on a character by the name Riley, played by Odessa Azon, and she's a recovering addict, and she's trying to start a new life. Through convenient plot devices and whatnot, she comes across that device that I described earlier, and she falls into this like journey and curiosity of, after she solves the first configuration, her brother gets caught in the contraption and he disappears. That's all she knows. So now she's keeps doing the configurations and trying to find a way to bring her brother back, and then she also finds out, trying to solve the truth about what is this device and what does it do. So basically, the film is a journey of her character trying to survive all the different scenarios of this configuration while other people are getting caught in this trap of death and despair and stuff. What I liked about this film is that yes, it is a gore fest, but it doesn't rely on the gore to try to scare you. It is a part of the plot. It is part of the characterization, because what you're dealing with these other characters from another world, the idea of pleasure and pain is like one and the same. And the idea of granting wishes and giving people what they truly desire, is it really what you desire, or do you deal with the grief that comes with all of the substance of configuring the stuff on this device? So that part of the film I liked. It does rely on a little convenience and a lot of the gores at times. So some of the characters are flat at times, and then when you get into the third act, there's a lot of predictable outcomes, but it leads into an ambiguous epilogue, which relies on that idea of, what do you truly want to get what you desire, or do you settle on that grief of what is the outcome of the situation? So it does a good job of building up the lore and the characters, and not relying on the tactics of horror just to scare you or just to gross you. It is part of the journey of this character and their fallout. So
I think the last one I remember seeing in this franchise, I want to say, was in Hellraiser Bloodline.
Yeah, I think that's the third in the series. I think fourth. Okay. Yeah. I could not remember, and I never watched the if I watched the original, I can't remember, but yeah.
Well, it's either that one, or I think that was the one where they ended up having a sci-fi element to it.
Yeah.
But the first Hellraiser, in Clive Barker's Hellraiser, really kind of got me.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I guess as we were talking, it's like, okay, how well does this one honor the original, and does it change anything that kind of sets Hellraiser apart from some of the other major horror franchises?
It does, in a way, because it doesn't rely on gimmicks of a idolizing character that's wreaking havoc, and it relies on the lore and the mystery behind these characters from the other worlds, the Cenobites, and their idea of pleasure within pain. So they're like from a whole different realm and future. So the idea of pleasure and pain is kind of molded into one, and it's that lore that adds adds to the grief and adds to the suspense, even when there's like the gore happening and the cliches at times.
So how are we doing with the fact that Pinhead is female this time?
It doesn't detract from it. It doesn't take
add?
It adds value in the way that they create these creatures and characters. Every creature and character, it's just horrifying to see what they are, and it's the mystery of why are they so different and what is it that happened to them that led them to that. There's no answers to it. It's kind of left up to you, and that's what makes the film more creepier. Is because why would you do this? But then at the same time, there's no like empathy or emotions to it. So there's like this multi-layer within the gravitas of the device.
Yeah, I'm asking because sometimes when they gender swap a character, it's sometimes you question the decision to do that. Like, was it the best move for the character or for the social political influence?
Yeah.
On the industry? I'm not taking it away from that. I don't want to cause a fight there, but
there's no fight there.
It's kind of one of those things. It's like some characters are so iconic that to gender swap them, it's like, okay, does this add to the character's mystique and motif? And I have to say, it's like when I think of major horror film icons, this is Pinhead's in the top 5.
Yeah.
I mean, if not the top 3, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, it adds a mystery because the way it is in the film, the Cenobites, there is just this ambiguous nature to who they are or what they are.
Yeah.
So the idea of being male or female is non-existent just because of the plane that their mentality state is at. And it adds credence to the creature design. It adds credence to how everything is presented.
Okay.
So,
cool.
there's no like socio-political agenda. It's just that is the way that they designed this story. So it fits the narrative in a way.
I mean, and that's what it is. It's like, it's like there's been a lot of movement in the industry and whatnot. So,
But no, it doesn't take it away. But overall, great, fun, great experience. If it was in theater, I'd check it out. 3.5 out of 5, a matinee.
So. Nice. Alrighty.
And now Scuba and The Ry do the movies.
Yeah. Halloween Ends, the 3rd film in the latest trilogy of Halloween films.
Does it end, people? I'm not going to tell you. You got to watch it, but we're going to give our 2 cents.
All right, so this one came out. It's in theaters and it's on Peacock. I watched it on Peacock. Ry watched in theater, so we have 2 different view standpoints.
Yep.
I'd be honest, I'm not a big horror film fan, but learning more of the history behind this particular franchise kind of lends me to want to watch the different interpretations. The reason I say that, just kind of go into this, is like we have the first Halloween film.
Yeah.
With that was done. That started the whole quote unquote slasher genre.
Yes, it did.
After this, then it was Friday the 13th, then it was Nightmare on Elm Street. So this is the OG that started it.
Yep.
Now, if you're one of the podcasts, another podcast that I personally listen to and I love listening to is called Stuff to Blow Your Mind, right?
Boom.
It's on iHeartRadio now. Used to be How Stuff Works. They do a thing on Fridays called Weird House Cinema, where they'll look at an older film and break down the film. They did one for Halloween, I believe, but they also did one just recently for Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Yes, sir.
So you start looking at this franchise from a production standpoint and longevity. I mean, the first film was, again, in the 80s, I believe.
I'll look it up.
No, 1978.
Yep.
This was out before Alien, which is my big one.
Yep, 1978.
But, it's like, I mean, that sets a pretty good bar for a franchise. But, of course, the icon, and it gives us another one of our top 5, my personal top 5 most iconic horror characters.
Michael
Myers. Who'd have thought a William Shatner mask painted white would end up being such an iconic horror element in the world?
And it has. You see it and you think of one thing. Star Trek. No. Mike Myers.
Yeah. Definitely not Star Trek. But and of course, this gave us Jamie Lee Curtis, the infamous Scream Queen herself,
Laurie Strode.
But so Ry, let's go through your review and then I'll give my thoughts on this.
So Halloween Ends, it's part of this new set of trilogy which began in 2018 with Halloween, the like a reboot sequel that actually wipes out the history of all the Halloween movies, as that one takes place as the sequel to the OG proper. And then you had Halloween Kills that came out in 2021. And this is the final of this new trilogy, Halloween Ends. So this takes place 4 years after Halloween Kills. And it focuses on the town of Haddonfield, Illinois, which is the one where everything's happening. So the town is in disarray. And they're trying to recover from this deadly killing spree that happened on that fateful night. So as they try to move forward, this aura evil still kind of like hovers over the town in a way.
Yeah, it feels like it permeates. Yeah. Like it's just like a thick fog.
Yeah, it's a thick fog and it permeates both good and bad.
Yeah.
And unlike Halloween Kills, it actually brings back one of its main pariahs with Laurie Strode, where in Halloween Kills, she pretty much just chills in a bed most of the time, hospital bed, but we're not going to return to that. But Jamie Lee Curtis, like you said, iconic, and Laurie Strode, and she's trying to move on from Michael Myers. But things start to happen and things start to come up on the surface, and she has to face Mike Myers and just these overshadowing of evil. And is she going to be able to get past it? Is the town finally ever going to end this threat or this evil that's been hovering over there? One thing I can take from this film is that in the beginning, as it starts, and then when it's leading into the first act, it does a great job of subverting expectation. It presents you with the cliche, but it goes about face. It presents you with the idea and the thematic presence of what is evil. How does it permeate? How does it allow people to even survive or let alone live? And you watch it through the characters and through different individuals that are in this town and in Laurie Strode's life, like her granddaughter and this other kid that she meets. I'm not going to dive into the kid itself just to not spoil anything, but the whole idea is that all these characters are facing the idea of evil, not to mention Mike Myers is still out there. The bulk of the film is they don't go through with the ideas as cleanly as they should, and it's a mixed bag of gimmickies of the slasher film. Albeit some of the kills are great, but the writing and the scripting of the characters are so bland and just terrible that it kind of fragments that thematic presence. But that's where I have issues, that bulk, because they try to start those ideas, but they don't really follow through with them.
That's fair. I thinking about it, the fact that the Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends, those three, in this new modern one, I think it's one of those. It's like, especially I could speak to Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. Is like, not only is it you're seeing a story that has been layered all across all three films, because sometimes, I mean, you got to admit, we have seen films where it's like, okay, here's episode 1, here's episode 2, here's episode 3, and the connection between them is very loose at best. This one, it seems like they wrote it around the connections so that it's a continuous story all the way through over all three films. And there are characters that if you would see in the previous films, and you see where they are after X amount of years, because this is a film that spans, several years in this trilogy. And that how that kind of goes through, and it's very interesting to see those elements. But you're right, there's a lot of it where it really does fall apart from a story, when you look at this particular chapter in the book, the writing on this really kind of falls apart. It really doesn't, the pacing is a lot slower. Like, this is a very slow burn, but it doesn't have the same creepiness factor, in my opinion, as some of its predecessors.
It doesn't. I agree with that. This one relies on doing something different, aka, like you mentioned, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. It tries to do something different, but it doesn't follow through. But even when it fragments once it gets to the end and it gets into the finale of Laurie Strode facing off against Myers, I think for people that are fans of the property as well as the idea of this thematic evil, it leads to a satisfying conclusion. Not going to say what or why, but it leads to something where it can finally put to bed to rest of the idea of what Myers represents.
Yeah, so. Which I gotta say is very convoluted, but
yeah,
I think this one is another one of those. It's like, while the concept of evil is very strong, the body is not.
Yeah,
because that's the vibe I got from this. It's like at this point he's got. I mean, if Laurie Strode's already got grandkids, and this is supposed to be her older brother, right? It's like yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't that it? He was.
Yeah. Well, they took away that dynamic of being the brother because that was 2. So since Halloween 2018 takes place after the first one, they wiped that out of continuity.
So what was Michael Myers' relation to her in Halloween?
He was like the attacker of the babysitter. So there's no connection as a brother. So that's what the 2018 did. It wiped out the continuity of all the films minus the first one.
I liked H2O.
Yeah, well, it's all, they have how they describe it now is that you have Halloween 1, 2, 3, where 2 and 3 go off into their other end. Then you have the H2O trilogy, which is its own subset, and now you have this new trilogy that moves off from the original.
I didn't know H2O was a trilogy.
Yep, the H2O, those films, Resurrection, H2O, and I forget what the other one's called. That's their own trilogy.
Oh.
Yep.
Only ever watched H2O.
Yep. I think it's Resurrection, and then there's another one.
Okay.
I'll look it up. Keep going.
But yeah, for me, this was kind of dull and kind of a slow burn, but you could tell it's definitely more dialogue focused and more of a, okay, let's talk, because at the end of Halloween Kills, it talks about the concept of evil.
Yeah.
More so than Myers.
Yeah.
And then in this one, we're exploring that concept, and then we're closing this down in terms of, coming to we were talking on the earlier. It's like there's a point early on in the film where it's like you see a particular set piece and it's like, yep. I already could call how this is going to end. It's just how we get there.
Yeah, it's the writing. They're the very. I'm not even going to say streamline, because even in streamline is good. They don't try to develop. They try to just layer it and then set up for, okay, you see these group of people, or you see these 2 sets of people, or you see this guy, and you're going to be on the X marks the spot, and Myers is coming after you. So, but overall, it's a hodgepodge. I like that they tried to do something different, subvert expectations, focused on themes, but overall 3 out of 5 for me. 3 out of 5.
Yeah. I was personally, I'm like a 2.5 out of 5. If you've got a Peacock subscription, totally check this out. Wait for it to be a budget rental, in my opinion.
Yeah. If you're truly a fan of the franchise, check it out at the theater for the right price, but do the Scuba way. If you got Peacock, it's right there, baby.
I mean, come on, for $5 a month with Peacock and all kinds of other things you can watch on top of this one.
Yeah,
definitely go check it out.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
But that's what we got on deck. So still some more horror movies coming out this month. I'll probably check out, but the next big one is Black Adam. So see that in the future.
Be interesting.
So Black Adam.
Catch that before next podcast.
Yeah. So we got a few movies coming up that I'm looking forward to.
Okay.
So we'll see what goes on.
So all right, next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to hit up on some Marvel stuff.
2 different properties.
Let's start with She-Hulk.
All right.
She-Hulk wrapped up. I got to tell you, that season finale was a total rope-a-dope for me, because I did not expect that. But then again, I'm not as familiar with the character, and I think I gained a better familiarity of the character throughout the course of this, especially with her fourth wall breaks.
I'm not familiar with it, but I understood from other people that I know follow the comics, says she does do the fourth wall breaking. The way they played out in the series is how she plays out in the comics,
which I think is great.
Yeah. So, and the meta stuff. So Overall, for She-Hulk, I enjoyed it for the most part. I love the meta-ness. I love that they went for the sitcom comedy thing because it stood out in itself. Didn't always hit on every episode, but when it did hit, it gave you laughter, like the Walk of Shame.
All
if
right,
you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, people. That's all I'm going to say.
Hands down, it's got to be my favorite episode of the whole season.
Yes, it was. So,
but it's I have some gripes on the way the last episode ended, only because I feel like despite how the episode goes,
yep.
I still feel like they ended up forcing out a few too many things they could have just left without.
Yeah, they forced it, but the way they went about it and the way they had me thinking for a second that my Fire Stick broke, I will give them props for that. I'm not going to say how, people. When you know, you know. But yeah, the way that they played off the meta and the way they did, how the ending, I was fine. How they got to the ending, but you know, overall, I liked it for the most part. It's not in my top 3 of the shows that have been on the streaming platform yet, but it was still enjoyable. But the way I look at this with all the shows, I don't really do my top 8 because they're all different, this. But
they all have the different elements. Yeah. But I mean, it's worth sitting there and discussing a little bit on the comparison of how they approached this one as opposed to their other properties. The big thing is like there's like all the Marvel shows and films, they have this major set piece toward the end. Yet this one didn't quite do that. It seems like as a lot of people would comment, and I kind of agree with, is you have this expectation of what a Marvel Studios project will be.
Yeah.
And they find ways to be like, yeah, no, we're going to go this direction instead.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate the call out. And, you know, it wrapped up in a way that actually focused on the intent of the character.
Yeah.
So it focused on the intent. What is this character? She's a Hulk and she's a lawyer. And that's how it ended. So, you know.
Overall, great. There was definitely some parts that were a little too cheesy and corny.
Every time I watch this, and I know Scoob and I know cheesy, there's a line. You can handle cheesy, but if it crosses that line of a certain degree,
it totally breaks it. Where it's like, really?
Yeah, I have that line. It's not as close like you, but you know, I can enjoy cheesy within the focus of is it built into the narrative. Whereas if it's cheesy just to be cheesy, I can't deal with that. And there were parts where they did that, but it's more of a 60-40 where 60 I enjoyed.
I gotta say though, the actress for She-Hulk,
Tatiana Maslany.
Yeah, that was she nails it. I love the banter between her and Charlie Cox's Daredevil.
Oh yeah.
Is just great.
Yep. I loved her interactions with her her assistant that was with her. So I love that. Nikki Ramos, played by Ginger Gonzaga, she was great.
The one I'm kind of like, you know, even Wong in this one, it's like you think of Wong as like this stoic person from the other films, and then in this one, it's just like, I want to go hang out with that guy some more because there's obviously some things I'm missing.
Oh yeah. And at the end of the one episode, when he's chilling and trying to watch The Sopranos, had me dying laughing.
Even more so when it was like you got caught into another show, didn't you?
Yeah.
The prime era of television.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think the one I was kind of like, Blonsky was probably the one I really didn't expect that direction.
Yeah, I you know, that's where I like the idea where, you know, it subverts the expectations and what you see and how they lean into like this like new and like kind of like, you know, finding himself within and having his own like communion place and all that stuff. It's kind of cool. And just the way it ends, you would expect to see more of the Abomination in the future.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
Yep.
All right. So,
but overall, enjoyed it.
She-Hulk, go check it out. It's definitely worth a laugh.
9 episodes. It's all up on Disney Plus now.
And all right. So the new property that they just dropped was Werewolf by Night. This is part of their October string of Halloween and Halloween inspired things.
Yep.
Werewolf by Night is interesting because as talking with our friend Penumbra, his thing is like Werewolf by Night is the comic title that gave us Moon Knight.
Yep.
First introduction. So for him going into this was like, okay, where's Moon Knight in this? Otherwise I'll be upset. I kind of shared that because again, I'm going off of what my friends tell me and what they think this is. And I went into this one and it's like, no, there's no Moon Knight. And I kind of like how this went. I mean, if it's shot in black and white,
which is great.
A little bit of color.
A little bit. I mean, they have more color at the end, but for the most part, they don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few elements of color, but it's that. It's like it's like the technology can allow you to do these really wonderful effects. But it seems like they really tapped into, all right, let's talk about the whole Harryhausen films, the classic Universal monster movies, and just everything's a practical effect. That could be a practical effect.
Yeah, they touched in that Universal monster aesthetic, doing the black and white, the black and white added personality to this TV special because it's a TV special. That's what they call it. It's not a movie. It's not a TV show. It's a TV special. So they played hark into that. They played to the aesthetics of that, and that aesthetics helped elevate the characters because even though you introduced to a plethora of characters, you got them. They were unique. They weren't archetypal. Every character is always based off some archetype, but there was an individuality to everybody. And
they hit the ground running.
Yeah, they hit it.
Waste a lot of time at exposition.
No, you got the explanation. You got that they come to this mansion to celebrate Ulysses Bloodstone, and that they're fighting for the Bloodstone, who's going to take over for it.
Yeah.
So, and through that, you what you get or what you think is going to happen doesn't happen, and it kind of flips the script. And well, the title Werewolf by Night, you kind of know where it's going to lean in, but there's some surprise characters that you see, and the surprise usage of what I appreciate with the black and white. The reason they did it in black and white because it allowed them to get away with a lot of things they couldn't if it was color. So there was a lot of limbs being ripped, a lot of deaths happening everywhere, the werewolf throwing people everywhere. Man-Thing, the way they utilize Man-Thing, the way I will describe it is you will feel like he is your best buddy and your puppy that you will be scared of. So if you know, you know. I'm not going to explain what or why, but Swamp Thing, Swamp Thing, not Swamp Thing, but Man-Thing, he wasn't practical. He was actually all CGI.
Yeah.
But the way they do it in the movie, you couldn't tell.
It was great.
Yeah. So
I mean, but the point is, well, he's a character that it makes sense.
Yep.
Because trying to do a practical effect on that would probably be a lot more labor intensive, considering the size. But looking at some of the other practical effects, like even the dead guy mannequin, that is the old school. Sorry, spoilers. If you haven't watched this, go watch this because we're not holding back on this one.
Yeah.
That animatronic character in the coffin is just so hilarious. It's such a callback to those older films.
Yeah, there is a stoicism mixed in with the bloodiness and the comedy that everything is just seamless. And this is a good one shot where it adds credence to the universe. It adds that supernatural element, but doesn't it's able to stand on its own while still being part of this whole universe.
Oh yeah.
So, it's unique. So Gael Garcia Bernal, who plays Jack Russell, he's great in that role, and he provides this like gravitas, especially when he transforms into the werewolf and does things. And then his relationship with Elsa Bloodstone, played by Laura Donnelly, is very gratifying. And like you said, they don't spend a lot of time on exposition, but it's the subtlety in their actions and in the script. It's just those little subtleties that you get the dynamic of what they are, how they are together, and what their purpose is. So everything is reliance on the audience.
It's so funny. It's like, it's a horror film. It's got horror elements, but it's such a fun ride.
Oh yeah, it's fun and exciting. You got this adrenaline, and you love the characters, and you love the outcome. So especially when, drinking a cup of Joe. That's all I'm gonna say.
Going to get sushi.
Yeah. So yep. Yeah. So overall, I enjoyed this. presentation, and a lot of people did. So Marvel might be doing these kind of presentations with other characters down the road.
That works. I mean, the What If series, all those kinds of things. It's great.
Yeah. So if you haven't checked it out, it's on Disney Plus, just like She-Hulk, and it's 54 minutes, so you can watch a quick watch of it. So.
Oh yeah, very quick watch, very enjoyable watch. Yeah. Part of me was wanting to watch Van Helsing afterwards, just for the black and white elements, and just something about the way that comedy comes across makes me appreciate Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's jump over to some newsy goody thingies. All right, so let's see. Our first story we have is Netflix adds the ad tier. We've been hearing about this for a few weeks now.
Yes.
It's supposed to launch next month, I believe.
November 3rd at 9 a.m. Pacific time.
So basically, it's interesting how this has kind of come about, where it's like Netflix is worried about their bleeding subscription losses, yet they just added a bunch of new subscribers.
2.6 million, I believe, if I'm getting the numbers right.
And we're going to have this ad tier that's like $10 a month. But interesting how they can't, you even with the ad tier, you can't get everything in the library.
Yeah.
Because there's permission and copyright and a lot of legalese. That's influencing what shows can and can't be on this ad tier.
So from the article on IGN, so the basic ad tier is going to be limited to 720p. Some people don't care about that, so that's okay. In the basic plan, you're going to have your ads. So what they said is that you can expect at least, quote, 4 to 5 minutes of ads per hour. That will be 15 to 30 seconds in length, which is typical. If you have your ad tiers with the other ones, they're not that much, and they don't really take away from the experience, because it's just quick. Like you said with the licensing, they said that Netflix is going to work through it, and a lot of those licensings aren't tied into their original content, so you're going to have access to pretty much their original library. It's just some of those licensed content. So, but this is a good way. People like to complain about the prices and stuff. Paying for something like Netflix at $6.99, and even with some of the licensing restriction, you still got a ton of content. And it's going to be available in US, Australia, Brazil, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Korea, Mexico, Spain, and the UK. So. But yeah, this is a good one. People that want to stay on a budget with all the streaming platforms out there, $6.99, not a bad price. So do it, people, if you want to. And it's 2.4 million subscribers, just to get the number right.
All right, and for our next one, we're gonna have to cue up the soundbite.
Oh, so sad, people.
It's so sad. It's so sad. It deserves a cackle.
All right. So, this is coming on the heels of last year, about the same time, we did report how we, as gamers, we know of a thing called G4 TV. And back in the early aughts, G4 was a big thing.
Oh, it was huge.
Yeah.
Back to the show. I mean, that was the jam.
That's where you went for your gaming stuff back in the day. And then, after a while, it went away. But then they decided, hey, let's bring it back for everybody. Well, not even a year later, they are shutting down the relaunch.
Yeah, it's like Comcast is pulling their funding.
Yeah. So, as reported in Kotaku, and they cite as a deadline, it says, email was sent to remaining staff today by David Scott, the CEO at parent company Spectator division of Comcast. In the memo, he explains, quote, that the company's investment and efforts to revive the network just didn't gain traction. So, they're pulling the plug. They're not getting investments, but from my perspective, relaunching it as a channel in the era of streaming and YouTube and Twitch and a lot of individual content developers like Scuba and The Ry, it's kind of a market that it kind of looked like it was going to fall to the wayside anyway.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, not based on any findings, but just when you look at the landscape, the people that you're aiming for, they aren't really watching cable TV.
No, not anymore. You have to go through things like Sling and some of these other things. If it was more of a streaming option, then I think it probably would have done a lot better.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember being all on the bandwagon to have it come back because Adam Sessler and all that great inspirations for doing this kind of work. But I don't watch TV.
Yep.
I don't watch network television anymore. I mean, my content consumption is 90% YouTube and 10% all the other streaming services.
Yep, I balance because I still have a cable television, but the only reason I have it is for sports. And everything else I'm watching either through streaming. I'm a big anime fan, so I got Crunchyroll and then all the other platforms that have anime. And
honestly,
then
I have
just Spotify, and that's pretty much it.
I have it because it's part of my bundle with Verizon, and I get a few perks from the fact I'm a Verizon cable customer.
Yeah.
Like my HBO is covered through that.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I couldn't tell you the last time I actually turned on and watched cable box.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's Apple TV, YouTube, or Disney Plus or whatever. I mean,
pick a streaming service for me. It just depends on which show.
Yeah.
Just depends on which show I'm checking out and what time of the year it is. Because you know, every streaming service has got their shows. So when it drops, that's where I navigate.
Yeah.
So.
Especially now you're getting into, okay, I'll use this for a month and then I'll let it go. And then I'll use this other one for a month, let it go.
Yeah. So,
you know, that kind of thing. So
it's just that I think the aim of it, and there's, some of the, investment choices and what they were paying might not have equated with what came in. So, but, they tried, they failed, but, still remember back in the day, the OG G4. So I will never forget it.
Yeah. And I think they've all moved on so far from that. So what is it? We had a discussion for Art of the Remake. I think we were discussing that earlier. So we kind of jumped the gun on that.
Yeah, we kind of just mixed it in so we can just move on forward.
Right, let's hit up our odds and ends and sail on out of here.
All right, so we got some unique odds and ends like we always do. Ry guys always finding something out there.
Yeah, we got 4 of them today. So let's start with that first one, considering it's Halloween. Halloween's coming up.
Woo!
What is it? Chipotle is giving you free food if you show up in your costume?
Yep. So this is an article from a Fox affiliate. So for the first time since 2019, so it's been a few years, quote, the chain is bringing back its burrito promotion. So where it says, quote, Chipotle reward members can get a free $6 entree for dressing up in costume at one of its restaurants after 3 p.m. on Halloween.
Okay.
So
it's got a few weeks and you have that Chipotle rewards thing. Go check it out.
Yep. Go ahead and dress up as either an assassin or Maid Marian, which I did. But it's only offered to reward members, but a lot of people go to Chipotle. I guess there's a lot of reward members. So, Hey,
if not, I mean, it's a quick thing for a free $6 meal.
Yeah, 20 seconds for $6 off. Count me in.
Right? All right. So next up, speaking of food.
Yummy.
Han Solo bread.
Yes.
What's up with this?
All right. So this is an article from the HuffPost. So there's a California baker that crafted a life-size Han Solo out of bread.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Yeah, so
I heard about this. This was on my my news feed.
Yeah,
I listen to in the mornings in my one of my podcasts.
So there is this dual baker, mother and daughter. So Hannah and Catherine Purvian, they co-own a bakery out in the San Francisco Bay Area called One House Bakery. And so this came about because of the COVID thing, and they just was like, hey, let's do something. So they spent weeks molding, baking, and assembling a life-size sculpture with wood and 2 types of dough, including, quote, a type of yeastless dough with a higher sugar content that will make it last longer.
Yeah, I think, and the fact that they were gonna shellac this, so you're not gonna be able to eat this at all. But it's a very interesting thing of, seeing Han Solo in carbonite.
Yep.
But made out of bread.
Yep. So
and they were doing this for something.
Yeah, they said they were just doing it because they're big science fiction fans and fantasies of Star Wars, and it was just something to do while everything was on lockdown.
Okay. This was their entry for the Scarecrow contest.
Yep.
In downtown. This is north of half hour north of San Francisco, downtown Benica Main Street Scarecrow contest.
Yeah, so they're going to submit it in there, and then you can vote.
They shellacked it so that the birds couldn't pick it apart.
So, yep, they made sure that it was protected. So, basically, the statue is Han Solo and his chamber when he's been frozen. So, yeah. So, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it looks like they also have another entry, which is they did one in 2020 for the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda.
Yep. So, it came out of inspiration of both their craft and their love for Star Wars. So, say Star Wars can give you cool things.
Yep. That should be great. That's great. All right, so Twins Day in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Okay, Twins Day in Nigeria. What's up with this?
All right, so this is an article from our local affiliate Wavy, and basically there is a town in Nigeria, Igbo Ora, where it is one of the most populated cities in Nigeria that has pretty much almost every birth are twins. So for the quote. For the past 12 years, the community has organized this annual festival to celebrate the twins. So they said in this year event, there's going to be held earlier this month. It's going to include more than 1,000 pairs of twins, and then drew participants as far away as France. So
wow.
So for 12 years, they have been celebrating the birth of twins in this town because for some reason, this town, which is not too far away from their largest city, Lagos, they birth twins.
Twins are a rarity.
Yeah.
And yet this is a place that seems to have them frequently. So there must be something in the water.
Yeah. So John Orpham, a gynecologist that's based out of the capital, says that it could be related, quote, that there are things they eat that have a high level of certain hormones that results in multiple ovulations for twins. But that's cool that they actually have a type of festival.
I mean, they're going to do a kind of a festival celebration. And then it's like the fact that it's drawing international visitors, I think just adds to that.
Yeah. So
that sounds
decade plus and going strong.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Our last one.
Thinking about visiting places. So of not too far long ago, I came across started doing a segment within the odds and ends where traveling to unique museum and stuff. So we found a unique museum in the Netherlands, and I thought, hey, let's go ahead and bring this back every once in a while, and I'll bring and spotlight a museum that I think is odd and unique, but could be fun. So today,
was the model that you could buy not good enough? Now you got to find a museum.
Yes, I don't think I bought a model yet.
You didn't?
No, I didn't buy it. But it still is cool. But this museum is actually the Cup Noodle Museum in Osaka, Japan.
Cup of Noodles. Cup of Noodle Museum.
Yeah. So in this museum, they have a plethora of different things you can do there, exhibits and attractions. So you get to see the chicken ramen factory, you get to see the birth of chicken ramen for the cup noodles, and then you also have places where you can create your own original cup noodles in there, and whatnot. So this basically is a museum that celebrates the history and all the different packages of the instant noodles of the cup noodles.
Nice.
So a little bit about it.
As if there wasn't a lot of unique tourist places in Japan. We're gonna add cup of noodles on your track of Super Mario World and the life-size Gundam.
Yeah. So this cup noodles, the chicken ramen was created back in 1958 by Momofuku Ando, and then that led to the cultural sensation of the cup noodles. So basically, what this does is just celebrates the history, gives you different exhibits to experience that in all the different flavors and whatnot. So, yeah. So if you ever want to find out the history of the cup noodles and want to experience some fun things, and if you're in Osaka, Japan, check out the Cup Noodles Museum. So,
works.
All right.
Alrighty, well, that pretty much wraps us up.
Yes,
so
sir.
It's time to sail on out of here. So again, thank you everyone for watching and hanging out, watching us on YouTube or listening to us on all of your major podcast subscription channels.
Spotify, Apple, iHeart, whichever one.
Remember to give us a rating, give us a like, share it out, let people know. It's a great way to support the studio and support what we do, get that exposure out. If you want to do shout out and a thank you again to Sirenscape for the background musics and soundboards.
Sirenscape.
Great way to go. We'll have another Halloween inspired sound deck for next time. And if you want to do more, you can totally do that. You can head over to patreon.com/scuba studio and consider being a patron there. Every little bit helps. It's just another way to support the show and to support the studio and the various projects that we work on. I don't got much else. I mean,
yep. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for enjoying this. We'll have more content coming up. Might have some stuff for Black Adam, more Halloween things, and then November and the fall turnaround.
Alrighty, with that, y'all have a great one, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Peace.